Week's lecture, we covered commitment, individual commitment in organization. As last week when we talked about communication, our interest is in how people's beliefs are influenced by their social situation, by how they come to have beliefs about the workplace, and how these impact behavior. In the case of commitment, it's something that's counterintuitive, but this notion that people's experiences, how they behave, the things that they verbalize, are all information that they use to inform their personal beliefs. We started out and said the first and most important thing to recognize about commitment is it's not a uniformly good thing. It is, there's a commitment process that generates beliefs, and for us, beliefs are where commitments reside. And we have to have an understanding that people can have beliefs that are productive and unproductive. And we actually saw that in the case for this week, where we have an entrenched engineer who is not willing to accept contradictory information, and the committing aspect of being involved with the design has made it very difficult for us to address problems with that design. We also went through and said, walked through and how commitment fits into the social information processing model. And it is very important to understand not only that it's an element in the social information processing model, but also that the commitment process is related to attribution, in the sense that for people to develop these internal beliefs, these internal explanations for their own behavior, those behaviors are typically lacking any kind of external explanation. So they're lacking a clear consequence. The person, by the nature of the behavior, has to take responsibility. And we talked about some specific features of behavior that make them committing, and that's the degree of irreversibility, that the behavior must involve choice, and again, it's not an absolute choice, but the person must feel volition, and that it's public, it occurs in the presence of others. Another very important thing about commitment is that in the typical application in business, it's really the result of a series of incremental behaviors. People don't just do one thing and suddenly have this kind of major belief emerge. It's really the beliefs that are strongly held are usually the result of lots of different behaviors. Those behaviors may well include explaining ourselves to other people as part of the accountability that drives a commitment, and that the consequence of this stream is a high level of commitment. We also remarked that it's very important to understand commitment is a very healthy thing, right? So it is good that we have commitments. And we want to understand how to encourage the formation of commitments in the workplace, and commitment to work values that are, help the person succeed and help the company succeed. But we also need to understand that there are undisclosed commitments. We can't see them, but sometimes they're very counter to what is ultimately in the best interest of the person that's working for us, but also makes it very difficult for us to accomplish, organizational goals. Very important also, as we went through, to understand that we have to really be careful about making people defend behavior. And because when we make them defend it, those verbalizations are just developing beliefs about why the behavior is justified. And we talked about really what you want to do is try and find a way to help the person attribute to and give them permission to attribute to external factors for their prior behavior, because that really opens up a channel for some behaviors that lead to really a much more desirable set of commitments. On the further reading, there are a couple of things here that are, comprehensive kind of looks at commitment in the HR area and in leadership. Probably the classic piece on commitment, which everybody cites, is the Solancic piece that you read. That does a really terrific job of kind of putting together the very basics. I hope you appreciate, after we went through it in class, that while kind of simple to state, commitment results in pretty complex sets of interactions in organizations. There are very diverse commitments that individuals are going to have in any organization. And when we're in a leadership position, kind of effectively acknowledging those, understanding those is very challenging. But we can anticipate in some instances and have a fairly good idea of people we're familiar with, what are their belief structures and how is commitment operating on them. It's quite important. Next week we're going to move in and talk about the topic of socialization. And socialization is the process whereby people who are in an organization and share behaviors come to have a set of common beliefs and that drive their behaviors. So they have common behaviors rooted in shared beliefs. And that is of great interest to us in our leadership role and is really the foundation of what we would call organization culture. We want to know where organization cultures come from, how they're transmitted. Extremely important, and the socialization process is very important. And you will see very much related to the process of commitment whereby people's behavior influences their beliefs.